Hi guys, I'm Sophia Vanderwall. This is my second time filming this all the way through, because I had an error before, but that's okay. We'll do it again. So I chose the country Bhutan for my case study country, not for any particular like serious reason. I saw a lot of people who like whose families were from their case study country or they were from the case study country. No, no, not me. I just was really struck by the TED Talk that the Bhutanese Prime Minister did that we had to watch for this class a little bit ago. He talked a lot about like not only climate neutrality but also climate oh, I don't remember if it's positive or negative. I guess negativity because they're taking in more carbon than they're putting out into the environment because of such rich forests. Yeah, it was a great TED Talk. I was really shocked that there was any country on this planet that um, had such great views on our environment and really sought to protect our beautiful environment here on Earth. And I thought it was great and outstanding, and I wanted to learn more about the country and figure out why it is they prioritize um, something so green, I guess. So, Bhutan is a small country in South Central Asia. It's on the eastern ridges of the Himalayas, right there around Nepal, India, China, Myanmar, um, Bangladesh, all those things. Um, Very beautiful country, a lot of mountains there, but it does have a smaller population. Um, Something else I thought was interesting is that historically they were an autocratic monarchy, and in the 1950s they had a king who wanted to shift towards elected assemblies and prioritize democracy for his people. They still do have a monarchy, but they also have democracy there. So I'll get into that more later. Um, so Bhutan is a very diverse country. The main ethnic group makes up actually only half the population, and that ethnic group is the Busha people. And then after that, you have the Nepalese people, and then the Shar Chops. And this word Shar means eastern, and Chops means like people or like suburbs or population. Oh, oopsie. So it's just the people in eastern Bhutan. So there are many languages spoken in Bhutan, mainly Tibeto-Burman languages. Primarily, they speak Dzongkha, whose written language is actually identical with Tibetan. And so I also read that the Sharchops people eat. Oh no, she itches a lot. We'll scoot the camera. They speak the Xiangala language. Very cool. Okay, she does not itch anymore. We just rescued her. I'm sorry. Um, so the non-governmental organizations in Bhutan are primarily grounded in community support and environmental protection, which is exactly what I expected out of Bhutan, given like my limited experience based on their TED Talk and what else I had read to this point. Actually, it's just a lot, sorry. Um, so the main example I chose to focus on was the World Wildlife Fund, who, of course, is based on that like community support and environmental protection umbrella. And these are their three main pillars to sustain ecosystems of ecological and cultural significance. And I thought that was really important, that like recognizing the ecosystem is really significant to their culture as well. Um, I also thought it was cool how they wanted to support a nature-based economy because a lot of times I think as in America we think of economy as like capitalism, go-getter, all those things. Moving on. So, their third pillar is to promote inclusive conservation and development, which is pretty standard within that umbrella, something I'd expect. So, um, I thought it was cool that they were relating climate change issues not only like at the local level, they're not just making it their problem, they're also seeking to make it the world's problem, because it's not just a local issue, it is a global issue. The World Wildlife Fund seeks to not only combat climate change, but also to support like local ecosystems as well. So they want to, combat climate change at the global level. They want to help the Earth. They also want to support what's directly around them, which I thought was really powerful and awesome. So Bhutan to the outside world. This is the Bhutanese Prime Minister. He was giving the speech this year at the UN General Assembly, and he discussed a lot of like sustainable living, development, climate change, climate development, and also global happiness, which I love how much they focus on global happiness. They really want everyone, they recognize how a lot of countries focus on the gross domestic product and how can our country be as wealthy as possible. And they say, no, we want our people to be happy. And I think, call me radical. I think that's what matters most here. Um, so they have a Freedom of the World score of 68 out of 100, but they are considered free. They're a constitutional monarchy, like I mentioned before, and they have a parliamentary democracy. So they have elected in a chamber or like a cabinet of people, but they still do have a king. And their primary weakness that I think knocked a lot off that score is how they historically have repressed the rights of ethnic Nepali people. I think this was an issue that was really prevalent leading into the 1990s and has since gotten better from what I've read, but I'm not too sure about that. I have not read about, what they've done to improve that issue or like how they have made strides to maybe um, reinstate the rights of ethnic Nepali people or what they were doing to begin with. But this is what Freedom House had told me. So, um, now moving on to the political economy, their human index value around a medium rank, but they have had numbers that have climbed a lot in the past 15 years. Their gross domestic product per capita, which we know they don't focus. I mean, not they don't focus on. I was going to say we know they don't focus on it, but they more they more so value, gross like happiness. He called it like some kind of play on words based on like happiness, like gross happiness product or whatever. But it's almost $4,000 per capita. And then they are members of the World Bank since 1981 and the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development since 1971. Um, so, uh, yeah, I didn't know how big World Bank was until this chapter. So it was pretty interesting. So how do we get to Bhutan? There are no current U.S. State Department advisories, so they said just exercise normal precautions. Yes, a tourist visa is required. Bhutan really does try to at least like keep track of the amount of people that are coming in and out of their country. They really try to not limit the number of people, but like, they are a smaller country, both population wise and physically. And they don't want a whole bunch of random people just traipsing into their country willy-nilly. They want to protect what they have environmentally. So I get that like they really do enforce the tourist visa. There also are no direct flights from any major US airport or Canadian airport to Bhutan. You would have to fly into a neighboring country like India or Nepal or Singapore, and then take a flight from that country to Bhutan on one of the Bhutanese international airways because they have their own airline. So flights to Atlanta from Atlanta to New Delhi are a little over $1,000 round trip. You can see that here in my upper right image. And then you would fly from New Delhi to the capital of Bhutan for around $500. And I think that, when you're traveling, airfare is always going to be usually going to be the most expensive part. But Bhutan actually charges a sustainable development fee of $100 per person per night. So, this money goes directly into, sustainable living. They want to continue developing their country and they use tourism as like, a nature-based economy like we talked about before. Um, but also like they use it to directly fund a lot of their sustainable development. So I thought that was cool. And I also really like the question about like the global citizen must see. Because I have opinions on this. I've traveled an okay amount, and I really do think that the best way to get that kind of like perspective of a global citizen is to go out and either like experience life like a local would or go and experience life with the locals directly. Um, so I think the Trans-Butan Trail, um, you get to see so much of the country's beauty, of its natural landscapes, but you also get to see a lot of people along the trail. I saw there was like get an astrology reading along the Trans-Bhutanese Trail, like on the Bhutan travel website, which I linked down here. Um, so I thought that was interesting. And then also festivals. I think festivals are a great cultural practice. And if you want to experience the culture of a country that you're visiting, there's no better way to do it than at a festival. Um, Yeah, so they have a whole like travel website that I thought was really cool and helpful. It had a lot of great resources and a lot of great information. Um, yeah. So I had a few most striking concepts. I realize now that my image is cutting off my words. That is okay. So I thought that learning more about Bhutan was really striking because um I think a lot of times we as Americans get really caught up in like the Western countries that we don't hear too much about what's happening in the eastern part of the world. And learning about what Bhutan was doing, though it is a small country, though it isn't as like globally um significant, I guess you could say. Like every country is globally significant, of course, but um Bhutan is really prioritizing themselves right now. So that's what I mean. Um but yeah, learning about Bhutan was amazing. I thought it was cool to see such a unique style of country, seeing a government prioritize their people so like emphatically. It was a breath of fresh air. I never knew a government could truly care about its people so much. And it's a beautiful country. Hello? Like gorgeous scenery. So many forests. I think 70% of Bhutan is made up of forests. And also reading the Persepolis, I might be saying that wrong. Persepolis, maybe. Um, it was a really great read. I've got two friends whose parents immigrated from Iran during the Iranian Revolution, and like growing up, not growing up, but like going to high school with them, you hear about it in passing, but you never really learn about, what their parents might have been facing or why they ended up here. You just kind of meet their parents and you're like, oh, okay, you're Persian, you're in the United States now. And that's about where the conversation usually stops with people's parents. But this was really heartbreaking, and yeah, I don't know what else to say on it, without getting too in the weeds. And it's also a little bit late and I'm kind of tired. And I could ramble about this book for a while, but it was just really striking. Especially given my personal connection to friends of mine who are of Persian descent, and who do have personal ties to the Iranian Revolution. And I think that's all. Yeah, it is. Thank you guys for listening.